They mutilate female changelings and put them in a milking farm. I mean, they can't be that bad. I mean, even in the God of Honor's Knight Apprenticeship training, there's a changeling. I mean, the God of Honor wouldn't allow an evil race into his apprenticeship, right? Right? Let's dive into the lore of the war where my manga, The Night of Slaughter, takes place. Changelings are what is known as a parasitic race within my world, meaning in the one of three ways that they can reproduce, two of those methods involve eating a child or putting one in a position where it could potentially expire. But a lot of the vitriol has to deal with the reputation that the Great Collection has given up onto the druids, fae, and other creatures of the Elden Forest. So back in the day, all of this that you can see here was ruled by three divine beings. You had Ezeron, the spirit of snow and earth, you had Neru, the spirit of wood and lightning, and then you had Glace, goddess of winter seasons. And one of these things is not like the other. I mean, I guess you could say Confero's spirit of death and wind ruled over the east side, but he really didn't rule over mortals. Our boy Confero was too busy gooning over his anime figure. For a quick history lesson, what ended up happening is the spirits had demands that the mortals had to live in a certain way, aka in a way that corresponded with a peaceful coexistence of nature. They had to build houses a certain way, they had to hold certain ceremonies, but for the most part, mortals were free to live kind of how they wanted. But after the fall of the Golden Empire, which is capitalized by the Tower of Babel, you know, the same place that the Night of Slaughter series is currently taking place in, that's the Tower of Babel, his golden legions, which were actually sent out on campaigns at the moment, basically got wind and then kind of went awry and then decided to take over the Chaos Plains. Those generals would later become known as the Generals of Sin, and they were the heads of each of the great clans. And it was they and some of their children and followers that decided, we don't want to live under that control anymore. So they decided to do the only thing that they could, wage war and then purify the land for mortals. And this war was known as the Defiance War, the same war our hot dommy mommy tatted up lady orc Petals participated in and destroyed 6.6 Texas's worth of landmass with one singular attack. So since my stories all take place in the same world, we can see by the fact that Flourishade exists and is ruled by the mortals, that the spirits did not win that war, that they gave up the land. But I need y'all to put a big quote on lost and won the war. The spirits were not beaten back. They conceded the land after a couple years. The spirits redrew their boundaries so that the Elden Forest was Neru's, the Frostsafe Forest was Ezeron's, and funny enough, the Grave Jungle didn't actually move whatsoever. Confero didn't even participate in the Divine War. He simply stated, if you come in my land, I'm gonna kill you. But the reasoning for the other two spirits was they reevaluated their position, and if the mortals really wanted part of the landmass which wasn't protected by them, they could have it, because their primary job was to do one of two things. The first one was to provide a safe zone for mortals in case the gods ever went awry, and two was to keep the gods in check, and they could do that by reestablishing their borders. And we can clearly see this as Winterhold is Glace's main capital and her territory, which is surrounded by Ezeron's territory, and Chrysol is the god of Pride's territory, which is surrounded by the Elden Forest and Elden Prime, which is Neru's territory. But the reason the changelings catch so much flack is because of that war. Because changelings, by their nature, have the ability to transform into other people. And so they were massive espionage components where they would assassinate, they played propaganda. Like, y'all think deep fakes today are an issue? Imagine a literal race that copies people and would go and do speeches on their behalf and change their political stances and cause uproars. So changelings played a massive part of the war. And that's what gained them so much hate, specifically because no one in the mortal soul trusted them. You couldn't trust your neighbors or else they could be a change. It was basically the Red Scare. And with the bonus that they eat babies, the mortals and the mortal soul decided, we're done with changelings. We are going to punish them. And so putting female changelings in milking farms does two things. The first one is it allows mortals to commodify a natural resource that female changelings produce. And since they don't care about their rights, they can do it in the most inhumane way possible to cause suffering, which is considered a patriot act to harm a fae. But hey, you can read all my mangas online for free. Let me know which one's your favorite, or you can grab a physical copy off the TikTok shop or see bio and description to grab one off the site.